Christian Bale's career is a study in transformation. From a child prodigy to one of cinema's most fearless shapeshifters, he's turned acting into an act of evolution. Today, we'll be analyzing all stages of the evolution of Christian Bale's career. Stage 1, 1986-1992. Christian Bale's story doesn't start in Hollywood, but on a small stage, acting opposite Rowan Atkinson in The Nerd. There, he witnessed something almost mystical. Atkinson never broke character, even between scenes. It wasn't pretending, it was becoming. That idea that acting could be an act of transformation rather than imitation stuck with him. It would become the cornerstone of everything Bale ever did. But how does a child even begin to process something that heavy? We'll get to that. At just 13, Bale carried an entire Steven Spielberg film on his shoulders, Empire of the Sun, 1987, and he did it with the kind of emotional depth that seemed impossible for his age. Critics couldn't stop talking about him. Spielberg himself called him the most natural actor he'd ever worked with. Not bad for a kid who'd only done a fabric softener commercial a few years earlier. But what happens when innocence meets instant fame? Bale learned that lesson the hard way. The press hounded him, classmates bullied him, and every interview felt like an interrogation. "I loved acting," he would later say, "but I hated everything that came with it." It's ironic. The very talent that set him apart also trapped him. Fame wasn't a dream come true, it was a cage. And for someone as fiercely private as Bale, that cage felt unbearable. He tried to walk away. But art, real art, doesn't let you go so easily. Kenneth Branagh convinced him to return in Henry V, 1989, and soon after, Disney gave him a shot at stardom in Newsies, 1992. The film flopped, but Bale didn't. Every setback became training. Discipline, resilience, and control. He wasn't just learning to act, he was learning why he acted. This would be Bale's first metamorphosis. From wide-eyed child actor to someone aware of the toll of his own talent. He had glimpsed both the beauty and the danger of performance, the way it could consume, define, and isolate. So he did what only true artists do when the noise gets too loud. He retreated and quietly sharpened his blade. But for Bale, retreat was never surrender. It was incubation. And soon, the world would meet a version of him far darker, hungrier, and infinitely more dangerous. Stage 2, 1993 and 1999. After the chaos of early fame, Christian Bale vanished. No red carpets, no talk shows, just silence. The boy Spielberg had crowned the next great actor seemed to have disappeared into the background. The 1990s were Bale's lost years, or at least that's how they looked from the outside. His parents' divorce hit hard, forcing him to move to Los Angeles with his father. He was adrift, personally, professionally, and emotionally. The phone wasn't ringing much, and when it did, the roles were small, the films forgettable. Newsies, 1992 had flopped, Swing Kids, 1993 underperformed, and Little Women, 1994, while a critical success, still didn't make him a household name. But this stage wasn't about fame, it was about foundation. Bale was quietly studying the craft, not for attention, but for truth. He wasn't chasing the camera anymore, he was learning how to control it. And yet, in every quiet role, from Metroland, 1997, to Velvet Goldmine, 1998, there was a hint of rebellion, an echo of something darker, sharper, waiting to be unleashed. You could feel it beneath the restraint. The energy was there, caged, coiled. But when would it finally break free? Well, that instinct, born from his hatred of fame, was about to become his superpower because by the end of the decade, critics were beginning to take notice again. There was something magnetic about his restraint, a kind of quiet control that hinted at madness beneath the calm, but he was still missing that one role, the one that would crack open the surface and expose everything underneath. That role was coming, a part so disturbing, so electric, it would redefine him forever. Stage 3, 1999-2001. After nearly a decade in the shadows, Christian Bale returned, not with a safe comeback, but with a blade. American Psycho wasn't just a film, it was a dare. Hollywood told him it would destroy his career. He smiled, suited up, and did it anyway. From the first frame, Bale's Patrick Bateman was a mirror, reflecting everything artificial about success, beauty, and control. But how much of Bale himself was hiding behind that mask? We'll get to that. He approached the role like a surgeon, dissecting every gesture, every blink or lack of one. Co-stars remember him as unnervingly precise. Between takes, he stayed in character, voice, and all, greeting crew members with Bateman's eerie charm. It wasn't a performance anymore, it was possession. He studied vanity, narcissism, and emptiness with the same devotion most actors reserve for Shakespeare. The production itself was chaos. Leonardo DiCaprio was briefly attached, the studio panicked over the violence, and director Mary Herron was fired, then rehired. Through it all, Bale refused to quit. When the studio wavered, he trained harder, sculpting his body into Bateman's weaponized perfection. Every morning was Patrick's morning routine, he later joked. Except it wasn't a joke. Critics didn't know what to make of him. Some called it too cold, too strange. Others saw genius. But beneath the controversy, something undeniable had happened. Bale had resurrected himself. No longer the lost child star, no longer the fading drifter. He was now the provocateur, the actor who could terrify you and make you laugh in the same breath. And then came Equilibrium, 2002, where he turned emotion itself into a weapon, literally. A smaller film, but an important one. It proved that his precision wasn't limited to madness. It was methodical, intellectual, and calculated. But what drove him to keep going that far? Was it rebellion, revenge, or something deeper? A need to find truth in performance no matter the cost? We'll find that answer soon, because just as the world was beginning to see his extremes, Bale was about to take transformation to a level no one thought possible. The next stage wouldn't just challenge Hollywood, it would break his body and rebuild his legend. Stage 4, 2004-2012. After training his emotions, Christian Bale would focus on his physicals. At this point, he had stopped acting and started becoming. He wasn't just transforming characters, he was erasing himself entirely. The Machinist in 2004 remains one of the most disturbing commitments ever captured on film. Bale lost 63 pounds, surviving on apples, coffee, and willpower alone. His body looked like a ghost's echo, a man hollowed out by guilt and insomnia. But the truth is, he wasn't chasing shock value. He was chasing honesty. When asked, how far would you go to feel truth on screen? Bale's answer was simple: as far as it takes. And just when everyone thought he destroyed himself, he rebuilt, literally. Within 6 months, he gained back over 100 pounds for Batman Begins. The physical metamorphosis was staggering, but what really shocked audiences was the psychology he brought to Bruce Wayne. Beneath the mask was not a hero, but a wounded obsessive, a man weaponizing trauma into purpose. The Dark Knight trilogy turned Bale into a global icon, yet it never dulled his edge. With Christopher Nolan, he shaped Batman not as a comic book archetype, but as a myth about pain, justice, and duality. He showed us that silence could roar and that even legends break when pushed too far. Between the capes and chaos, Bale still pursued smaller, stranger obsessions. The Prestige and 3:10 to Yuma, roles that explored rivalry, honor, and moral ambiguity. Each film revealed the same paradox: a man who demands control but keeps choosing chaos. Coincidence or compulsion? By The Dark Knight Rises, Bale wasn't just closing a trilogy, he was closing an era. The boy from Empire of the Sun had become the symbol of not just modern heroism, but also of self-destruction through dedication. Awards and acclaim followed. BAFTA nominations, critical worship, but Bale himself remained restless. Fame never seemed to satisfy him. In fact, he still looked almost allergic to it. So after redefining modern cinema's greatest hero, what's left for a man who's already conquered myth? The answer: tear it all down and start again as someone entirely unrecognizable. Stage 5, 2010-2018. After the myth of Batman, Christian Bale did something unexpected. He stripped away the spectacle and turned obsession into pure craftsmanship. This wasn't just about changing weight or appearance anymore, it was about refining transformation into art. The wild young actor who once punished his body for roles now learned to channel his extremes with precision. His rebirth began with The Fighter, 2010. As Dickie Eklund, Bale didn't just imitate addiction, he embodied its rhythm. The manic energy, the hollow bravado, the desperate charm, it was all terrifyingly real. That performance won him both the Oscar and Golden Globe, but more importantly, it marked a shift. For the first time, Bale wasn't proving himself, he was simply expressing the truth. From there, he became a master of physical illusion and emotional truth. In American Hustle, 2013, he gained 40 pounds, sported a ludicrous comb-over, and somehow made Irving Rosenfeld a small-time con man, both pathetic and sympathetic. How does he make us root for the flawed, the broken, and the morally gray? Maybe it's because he sees himself in them. Then came The Big Short, 2015, where Bale played the socially awkward genius Michael Burry, a man who saw the 2008 crash coming. He turned spreadsheets and silence into tension. It's fascinating, isn't it? How Bale can make sitting behind a desk feel as dangerous as a brawl in The Fighter, but more on that kind of energy later. By the time Vice 2018 arrived, Bale was unrecognizable again. Heavier, older, and disturbingly calm as Dick Cheney. His transformation was so meticulous, it felt supernatural. Critics couldn't stop asking how he did it. Bale just shrugged it off, saying, "I just eat a lot of pies." But we know better. Every movement, every pause, every breath was engineered. This was not imitation, it was possession. He once said, "If you're going to do it completely." And in this era, he proved that mastery isn't about excess, it's about control. His obsession matured into wisdom. His chaos became craft. But as Bale's transformations reached near perfection, another question began to haunt him. If you can become anyone, who are you when the camera stops? The answer would shape the next evolution of his career. Stage 6, 2019 and 2022. After decades of chasing extremes, weight swings, psychological abysses, emotional chaos, Christian Bale did something few expected. He softened, not in skill, but in spirit. The performances of this era revealed a man learning to let go of control, to trust simplicity over spectacle. Ford v Ferrari, 2019, marked this turning point. As Ken Miles, Bale shed the armor of method madness and delivered something that felt, finally, effortless. Miles wasn't a tortured anti-hero or a monstrous transformation. He was a father, a racer, and a dreamer. Flawed, funny, and full of life. The performance pulsed with humility rather than intensity. For the first time in years, Bale wasn't battling the role. He was simply living inside it. Maybe that's a secret of longevity, learning when not to fight. His chemistry with Matt Damon grounded the film in friendship and mutual respect, reminding audiences that Bale didn't need to vanish to be brilliant. He could just be. But here's the question. After decades of redefining what it means to disappear into a role, could Bale find power in just being himself? That's what this era explores. Then came Amsterdam, 2022, David O. Russell's offbeat, genre-bending film. Bale's performance as Burt Berenson is fragile and eccentric, the kind of character that could easily tip into parody in lesser hands. Yet Bale fills him with compassion, showing pain behind the quirk. It's as if he's no longer performing at us, but with us, reaching out through the absurdity to say, I understand. There's a freedom in these roles, a sense that Bale no longer needs to suffer for his art. After Vice's political ferocity and the machinist's physical punishment, here he found grace in imperfection. Even his interviews softened. He joked, he smiled, he let the audience in, and yet, beneath the calm, there's still that restless spark. You can sense it, the part of Bale that can't stop searching for what's real, what's risky, and what's next. Maybe that's why his performances now feel so human, because after decades of transformation, he's finally embracing the one role he never mastered before, himself. But even peace doesn't last for long. For an actor who thrives on danger, stillness is just another challenge. So, where does Christian Bale go from here when the craft, the fame, and the legacy are already his? Stage 7, for 2023, present. After decades of defying expectations, Christian Bale has entered his most enigmatic era, the era of choice. No longer chasing Oscars, headlines, or transformations, he now moves with the quiet confidence of a man who's already proved everything, yet still hungers for something more. The question is no longer what can Bale do, but what does he still want to say? His recent works reveal a seasoned artist redefining legacy on his own terms. In Thor, Love and Thunder, 2022, Bale surprised audiences yet again, stepping into the Marvel machine but twisting it into something uniquely his. As Gore the God Butcher, he brought tragic depth and humanity to a role that could have been cartoonish. The result? A haunting reminder that even in blockbuster chaos, Bale finds emotional truth. Then came The Pale Blue Eye, 2022, a gothic mystery steeped in melancholy. His performance as Detective Augustus Landor was restrained, almost meditative, an echo of the man behind the method. Gone was a transformation spectacle. What remained was an actor reflecting on life, mortality, and legacy. You could almost feel Bale looking inward, blurring the line between the man and the role. But what does one of cinema's most fearless performers do next? Retire? Repeat himself? Hardly. Bale's upcoming slate proves that even now, he refuses to stand still. In The Bride, 2026, directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal, Bale takes on the role of Frankenstein's monster. Poetic symmetry for an actor who spent a lifetime piecing together the fragments of identity. Then comes Madden, where he'll play Al Davis opposite Nicolas Cage in a biographical drama exploring obsession, rivalry, and legacy, familiar terrain for Bale, but with a new maturity. And in Best of Enemies, he joins Bradley Cooper in a Cold War espionage thriller exploring loyalty and deception, two themes that have followed him throughout his career. Now, each new project feels like a continuation of a lifelong thesis. That transformation isn't just about shapeshifting, it's about searching for truth in disguise. Bale no longer needs to prove he can disappear into a role. Now, he's revealing what happens when he lets himself be seen. Because after a lifetime of transformation, Bale finally becomes what he's always portrayed, a man in relentless pursuit of truth. Perhaps Christian Bale's greatest performance isn't on screen anymore. It's in his refusal to stop evolving, to keep testing the limits of cinema, craft, and the human spirit. Maybe, just maybe, the legend of Bale isn't about who he's played. It's about who he's still becoming. So, for which character do you think Bale outdid himself the most? Like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. And here's one final question before you go. If you could only watch movies from one stage of Bale's career, which would it be?